And the photo of Abby Farley, a stock image downloaded from a website called Shutterstock.com. Chick-fil-A, of course, denies creating the profile, but then again, they also deny the love between two consenting adults, so they may not be the most trustworthy of folks. Joining me now is former LGBT advisor to President Clinton and former president of Equality Matters, Richard Socarides. Richard, thank you for being here. You know, we're kind of mocking some of this and making light of it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But just it's hard not to laugh sometimes. But obviously a very serious issue. This boycott is real, and it should be real.
Well, it's a serious story, and it originates last year. Equality Matters, the organization that I was president of, did an investigation. A very, terrific young investigative reporter named Carlos Maza did an investigation of this company and discovered that they were taking profits from the sale of these sandwiches and funneling them into a non-transparent secret corporate foundation and using them to fund anti-gay activities. So everybody's entitled to their opinion in this country. Heads of companies can have their opinion. They can even support organizations personally. But when you go buy a Chick-fil-A sandwich, the profits from the sale of these sandwiches are going in to fund anti-gay activities, $3 million worth.
Have you ever been to a Chick-fil-A?
I have not, but I have had the experience of having a Chick-fil-A sandwich. It's an iconic brand, but there are not that many in New York and Washington.
Well, they're primarily in the Southeast, and I've said this before on the show a couple nights ago. I used to love Chick-fil-A. The sandwiches were great. The lemonade was amazing. I'm never going back. And I, like you, I have no problem with Dan Cathy using the money he makes, the profits he makes, even if publicly, I'd prefer to be public, taking profits from the company if he controls it, and supporting his political view. But we have a right to respond on the other side.
Right.
And that's what we're going to do.
And I think that this boycott is really, people are really captured by this story. It's captured a lot of people's imagination. I think because the brand is so iconic, it's so well defined, and people say the sandwiches are good, but the truth is that they don't have any employment protections for their gay and lesbian employees. Dan Cathy has said on separate occasions that he would probably want to fire employees who are engaged in sinful behavior. I mean, this company has a corporate tradition, a corporate way of doing business, which is not supportive of diversity.
This issue is different than many other issues. If the president of a company said, hey, you know what, we disagree about some tax policies or some arcane issues of public policy, fine, great, we all disagree. This is an issue of core civil rights. It is a question of how we view our fellow human beings, our sense of community. And for that reason, I think that when he is so, in my view, backwards looking on this issue, we are right to say we don't want to patronize this company.
Well, and it's interesting, right? I mean, how important has the issue of rights for gay and lesbian Americans, and how important has the issue of same-sex marriage become in this country? I mean, it has really become like the civil rights issue. We say it's the civil rights issue of our time, but much like race was in the 60s and 70s, I mean, this issue really matters to people, and the stand that companies and employers are taking, is really going to matter to people, and people want to work for companies that support equality, and customers want to be patrons of companies that support equality, and this is the debate we're going to have.
And there are some organizations, Chick-fil-A one, the Boy Scouts another, that seem steadfast in their embrace of the past.
Right.
Makes me wonder whether they will be able to survive long-term in the future.
The Boy Scouts really out of step with where the country's headed, and the Boy Scouts is such an important organization in our history and in our culture. It was interesting, the Boy Scout story last week, Chick-fil-A this week, juxtaposed with the story of Sally Ride, the astronaut, the first woman in space, who came out posthumously, but really very beautifully. It was interesting, juxtaposition of the different times that we have now, young people coming out, this issue on the top of everybody's list, but unfortunately, she didn't feel comfortable enough in her day and age to be open and honest with her sexual orientation. But in her passing, she's done everybody a great
wonderful service, and also perhaps it was the context in which she lived as an astronaut in the military environment, where, of course, we know only recently has Don't Ask, Don't Tell been gotten rid of, and so she might in this environment, and so that is a sign of progress.
She could have lost her job.
That's right, had she been open, which, thank goodness, we've advanced beyond that. Although if you work for Chick-fil-A, you may still be fired.
Right, you will still be fired.
Viewing this in
not maybe,
you will be, which is why we're not going to Chick-fil-A. But let's view this in the positive context. Is consumer power or shareholder rights movements being used to move some recalcitrant companies forward in a way that's been successful?
Well, I think, it's up to companies to decide what to do, but this has proven to be a very successful mechanism to bring people into the modern times. And companies understand that customers will support inclusiveness. Customers will support companies that promote equality. I mean, most Fortune 500 companies now have policies that protect people against discrimination. Obviously, Chick-fil-A is on the opposite end of that spectrum.
Look, one of the reasons I love this is that, when I was Attorney General, you sued people, you use the law. It's a great way to get social change. This is something that is more democratic. People coming together, either as consumers, shareholders, whatever it is, using the power of people reaching out, joining together. Unfortunately, time is up. Former LGBT advisor to President Clinton, former president of Equality Matters, Richard Socarides, thank you, as always, for your wisdom on this issue and your leadership. That's Viewpoint for tonight.